Hello, 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 Borderline Podcast Disordarians. I hope you're good. I hope you had a nice week. I have had an okay week myself. As we speak, I haven't got the results back from the test about my stomach stuff, but I did have a couple of new wires shoved down my throat. It was a bit nasty, if I'm being honest. Not a huge fan. I don't think I will do it again unless I really have to. But besides of that, yeah, I'm not doing too bad. I think I was enjoying the weather a little bit. I'm going to have a couple of shows and the next week. So I'm back at gigging now that my doctor appointments are done with, and yeah, that's exciting. Besides of that, I don't think it's yeah, I think it's just a lot of oh, sorry. My dreams have been so wild recently in the respect of the fact that they are just so realistic and so much more intense. Apparently is it can be a side thing from what is it? From the new medication that I got for to prevent my headaches, my migraine. Uh, but yeah, that was that's happened. I dream about a lot of stuff, and in some of the dreams I'm successful. That's good for a change. On some other dreams, I hang out with my parents, and that's also nice. And but yeah, on some other dreams, I'm just all my all my nightmares come to life, which is quite funny because it's a dream. But this week's episode is it's really I think it's a good one. I really enjoyed speaking with Geet. She's a very good comedian. Based in she lives in South London, and the chat that we had was just a good one. It was really entertaining. We had, however, to um, redo this because there was some problems with the first recording. But I actually think, you know what, you shouldn't be upset about it because this more recent recording was brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Personally, one of my I want to say favorites. Maybe I'm saying that. Maybe I'm being biased because it's been fairly recently. It's only literally only happened a few days ago. But yeah, it's exciting though. And I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I'm not going to take any more of your time now. I'll just let you enjoy the episode, and we'll catch up after. Okay, Geet, how's it going?
Hi, Levi. Thanks for having me, dude.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you for doing this. How's your day been?
It's a lovely, productive Sunday. I've done some. I mean, it's really been rock and roll. I've done some chores. I did some laundry. What else? I made some food. And what else have I done? I did some comedy admin, which is all very exciting stuff. Yeah, good. How's your day going?
The How's my day been? My day's been okay. I've done some. Yeah, I've just run for a bit. I tidy up the house. I fixed the door handle, and
It's an important task, man.
yeah, I fixed the door handle, and that's it. It's not bad because I feel like we've been told that for this summer is going to be rain and 50 days of rain and stuff like this and 50
Yeah.
days of bad weather, or maybe I just misread it, but then it's been nothing like it, so I'm enjoying that. And
Well, I
although
think
I'm
I mean, I think being British, I mean, if we are constantly walking on eggshells because there's nothing more unpredictable in life than British weather. So it's like we've got to be prepared. I mean, I'm walking out with my umbrella, my sunglasses, sunscreen, a winter coat, scarf, flip flops. I mean, you have to take it all these days.
Yeah, I think that's why they made Crocs, because it's just a bit of everything, you know.
So please tell me you don't own a pair of Crocs.
I don't own a pair of Crocs, although I'm
Thank God.
considering because
I've heard they're really comfortable.
I think it's just because like I personally think shoes are becoming very expensive
Hell
to the
yeah.
point where I'm just like I'm so tired to I don't know. You just have to pay like 100 because I feel like now to get a decent pair of trainers that are actually getting any lumbar support whatsoever, you're looking at over £100, and then
You know,
apparently
you're
go on.
getting old, Levi. You know you're getting old when you're having conversations about the comfortability of shoes and how practical they are. And I completely agree with you, especially with my disability. I have to go on special websites to get shoes that I'm like, which are wide enough so my bunions don't hurt, and but also allow me to actually walk with my disability. So that's, I mean, if that's not a sign of aging and generally just not winning at life, I don't know what is.
Well, I think, but because I think you were saying about like your, going through like the day by day with your disability, which would you mind telling us what's the name?
Sure. So when I was first, well, shall I start from the beginning? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
that. I mean, I'll start from the beginning simply because it's quite an interesting. No, who am I to say it's interesting? It's probably really dull. But um, I used to be a runner like yourself, and I was running kind of like 10K a day, 10 to 12K. I didn't have a life or that much of a social life for that matter, but like gym was my thing, right? And so I'd go running either, I would like wake up at stupid o'clock, like 5 a.m., and go for like a 10K run before work. And then I would go after work like a maniac. And, but it was like, wasn't like trying to lose weight. It was just like stress relief and keeping my mind healthy. And then I went to Lisbon. This was just before lockdown I went to Lisbon, broke my ankle. Stupid. I slipped, broke my ankle, came back, did the recovery, then I started running again. And then, I mean, the recovery went fine, but I kind of noticed like a bit of numbness in my legs. And then we went into lockdown, right? So for like maybe 2.5 years, I was, we had that 1 hour of being able to exercise, and I couldn't. Like my grocery shop, there was a co-op, and which was like a 30-second walk, 1 minute walk. I couldn't even do that. Like I had to have all my groceries delivered. So something was clearly wrong, but I was still like in denial about it. I just thought, you know about this, right? I think when you're a runner, you get very arrogant. Like you could have broken your leg, and you're like, oh, it's just a sprain, right? Could be like, oh, I'll recover. So I was still living in denial. I was being really arrogant about it, and I just thought if I do the right amount of resistance exercises and weights, I'll improve, right? And it got to a point, and I think it all came to a head when I was in Reigate, and I was rushing to see something, and I fell in the middle of the road, onto oncoming traffic, and I was like, okay, something's definitely wrong. So I went to like, I can't tell you how many specialists I went to. One specialist was like, I think you've got bunion problems. I'm like, I don't think that's the problem, mate. I think there's something a bit more serious going on. I went to a podiatrist. I had like electromagnetography. It's basically where they check if your nerves are working properly, and they were all very strange. And then I think it was only until like October 2020. I don't know. It was a while ago, but it was towards the end of the year, and I called my insurance company up. I went, I need to go and see someone like the best MS specialist. I need to see a neurologist on Harley Street. So finally went there, and by the grace of God, like I had an MRI done. And you know it's bad news when you walk into the doctor's office to get results, and he says, we've come a really long way with technology and medication. I was like, oh shit, I'm screwed. So I've got 14 lesions in my brain. I've got severe inflammation in my spine and my brain. Um, and then I had to have something called a spinal tap. So they basically extract fluid from your spine using a needle, which is like very long. It's like a 30 centimeter needle that they insert into your spine. Delightful, I know. And they check the fluid of your spine. It was all, and I went through all of this alone because we were in COVID, which so that was really difficult. And eventually I was diagnosed. So initially it was lupus, and now they believe it's multiple sclerosis. Either way, my neurologist said it's kind of a moot point. He said, whatever it is, you've got inflammation in your body. And so thankfully it's not progressive. Although my flare-ups have been really bad lately. But it's just day-to-day management of symptoms and all of that stuff. So it's been it's a journey. But if I honestly, Levi, I don't think I would have started comedy if I didn't get diagnosed. Because I had a chat with my boss, and my boss said to me, whatever you want to do in life, do it now. Because at that point, I was like researching carers and wheelchairs. And I was like, I thought I had like motor neuron disease or something, and I was going to die. So I was like, right, bucket list, here we go. And comedy was number one. So thankfully my symptoms have mildly improved, and I'm dealing with it well. But I just took a plunge into the deep end and started comedy. And here I am with lots of content for material about how
Wow,
I'm
wait,
falling
because
over all the time.
but but the thing is, 'cause this is like so, I don't know, just not surprising, but like it's so hard to gauge as an outsider, where you like, you're in one hand, you're dealing with something that you have never, again, you've never, again, perhaps it was there for a while, but you'd never been impacted by it, you
Yeah, I
know
think
and
I was just going to say, yeah. I mean, I think I work from home, and a lot of people say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky to work from home." And they said, "I'm so jealous." I said, "You know what I'm jealous of? I'm jealous of the fact that you can walk for over 15 minutes. Like that's what I'm jealous of." So it's like, yes, is my life a little bit easier? Sure. Um, that's why I started comedy to make my life easier. But but every day is a struggle, and I don't. That's not meant to be a pity party, but it's so I mean, it's besides British weather, my symptoms are also very unpredictable, and I've had a huge kind of lifestyle change, like 180 change in terms of where I like the places that I visit on holiday, the visiting friends, how do I get there? Gigs, is it close to the station? Um, I can't go on at rush hour because I usually need a seat on the train, right? So it's like all these things I have to consider every time I step out the house. And so, yes, it's nice to work from home, but it's even like the changes in weather, like extreme heat bothers me, extreme cold bothers me. So it's yeah, it was a complete. I mean, firstly, it was a wake up call because I slowed down a lot, and I think unless you've been through something chronic or you've got something chronic, you don't. People take their health for granted. I did. People really take their health for granted, man, and I just feel like when you told me earlier today, you said I'm going for a run. I was so envious. I said I really wish I could go for a run, and I can't. I'll never run again, but I will live vicariously through your fitness routine, Levi.
No, you say that, but you know what, you hit it, like, so like, well, I guess, on the nail, whatever the saying is, with we, the things that we take for granted, and because I as you were talking, I was trying to even like imagine, because I guess, look, the thing is, and it's not to say it's the same thing, because obviously it's not, but I've went through some stuff, because it turns out I had like these like really bad like acid refluxes for a while, but they were like horrible, like, from it caused from anything, and I had to go through like, and I went through about like 3 or 4 doctors, done like all these tests. Tomorrow I'm doing the last one, just to find out something to do with like my esophagus.
Yeah, yeah,
But anyway, all I'm saying is that and then I figure like when the doctor showed me what's happening. Apparently, I have like my stomach is like inflammation very quickly,
yeah, yeah.
and then I was like, this is so like, because again I was like, what, I don't know, like I always thought, but again this is from I guess a place of somehow fortune, where you always, even I think when I think about health, you think about heart, and maybe like brain, obviously, because
Or even like
and
weight. Like we don't think about actually the kind of necessary functions of eating, sleeping, exercising. Like we kind of just think about, oh, have I got a flu, or have I got a virus, or have I got an STD, God forbid. Like, we don't think about, oh, is my stomach functioning properly? Are my legs functioning properly? Like, it's yeah, I know what you mean. We take it's the basic fundamental functions of the human body that I think we sometimes just um, don't appreciate enough.
then you see, God forbid, in some ways, you have that taken away from you,
Mm,
and then that's why I was only trying to like imagine what it would be like. And again, on top of that, you were saying that, it happened at probably one of the most, I don't know, the weirdest time of our lives as a generation, where you were kind of like had to stay indoors, and you
yeah,
you can't see anyone, you can't go out, you can't, again, even say you need some time to, I think even at the time, for so many people, the fact that we could have gone on walks next to our mates, or like, go to a park, and then kind of like you could even like socialize with someone from a distance, or at least, you'd meet outside. It was nice, and then you're kind of like, oh, I can't do it, I can't, like you
mm,
said, there is a co-op downstairs and I can't get to it, or like I don't feel comfortable going, or I don't feel good about it. It's just
yeah,
mind blowing.
yeah. I think the past few years have really kind of jolted us. But you know what's really interesting? I was watching a documentary because I watch war documentaries because I have no life, and I was watching a war documentary, and like there were like 3-year-old kind of chimney sweepers, and these kids that used to work in mines. And I'm not saying we've got it better, or it's been easier, but I think human suffering on all levels is like kind of a universal experience. I don't think anyone has really gone through life without like a big, massive, traumatic thing happen to them, whether they were kind of affected directly or not. I think it's part of the human experience to um, go through. There's a phrase that God doesn't give you something that you can't handle, right? And I'm not sure if that's true or not, but or if you believe in God. I mean, who cares? But it's one of those things that I'm like, I learning to accept things is something that I think we've all had a lesson in over the past few years. Just learning to accept, because I think a lot of people. I mean, I certainly, when I was diagnosed, I was still, honestly, Levi, I was still trying to run, man. I was still just like, I wasn't accepting it. I was like, no, I'm not. There's no way. And also, in my 20s, like I was a racy little thing in my 20s. I had loads of energy, severely had a horrible eating disorder, but that's neither here nor there. But I had so much energy. And so to have something like this happen, it took me a really long time to just accept it. And now that I've accepted it, I can deal with it better. But I think, we, I think we do have an issue with things when something distorts our reality and we don't have the right coping mechanisms. Like, what the thing with COVID is that it was a collective experience, right? So we all kind of went through it together. Um, I'm not saying that, I'm not comparing, but my illness it's a very private experience, and so people are very sweet. Like, someone's like, "Oh, have you tried meditating?" And I'm like, and I know they're saying it to be kind, but have you tried changing your diet? Have you tried? And I'm like, Never thought about that. Thank you. Like, I don't know what. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh wise one. I'm so glad you're here to cure my illness. But I mean, they're people. It's coming from a good place, and I think we all, even with COVID, I think we all just, whether we liked it or not, had to accept what was around us. And I don't mean accept. I mean, some people didn't get vaxxed, and well, I'm not talking about that, but just accept that bad things happen, and to all of us individually and together. It's I always say that the mark of resilience is not really about avoiding bad things, but it's how you overcome them. Which sounds like such a wanky thing to say, and I'm so sorry I've made this into a
No, I think
politics style
it's.
podcast, but
I,
it is, my bounce back rate is getting better, I think.
I think I don't think it was a wonky thing to say at all. I actually think again it's very fair and it's very true and it's again it's a very I guess a very very nice combination of words. But then even if you I guess if you put it like you said, I think you were saying earlier about how in one way or another everyone experiences their own sort of like they have something impactful that's happening to them, whether like you said you're like a chimney sweeper in like 1920s, or whether you're now in like 2020s and trying to make it through a lockdown.
Mm.
uh, it's not the same experience. It's different and it impacts people differently, but it does exist. You can't not acknowledge your own. I guess yeah, like
Which
whatever happens to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, yeah, it's good that I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think some people sometimes feel that, especially because I've, with my family situation, which is quite dysfunctional, but there's a lot of stuff that people have said, oh, well, that doesn't really compare to your situation, and I'm like, that doesn't mean it doesn't affect you, right? It's like, I won't name him because he's such a lovely person. But I told someone about my MS, and he was like, "Oh my god, that sounds horrible. Like I get cramps sometimes." Right? and do you know what? But like he's got his own situation. But it was such a endearing thing to hear, because I'm like, that must suck, man. Like cramp's shitty. I hate cramp. But it was just like he was I think he was just trying to relate to me, and I don't take that. I don't want people to think that, especially with friends, you still want to be able to have, like, your problems affect you in the way that they affect you. Your issues affect you in the way that they affect you. Like this idea that you can't talk to me because it's not as bad as my situation. Like I don't like that. Like it's everyone needs help from time to time, and I think it's
But
okay to ask for it.
I also think it's something to do with the fact that we are perhaps getting into this situation where not like situation but like as a whole humanity, we're getting to the point where you ask someone, hey, how's it going, or like, hi, how are you, and they say good, thank you, and then they move on, to
Yeah.
now people actually being open about how they feel in many aspects, from again mentally, physically, etc. And then I think that's the first what do you call it, yeah, I think sometimes that's like the first impulse, where someone goes like, oh, I have this problem, and then you're trying to figure, you think that the best thing to say next, it's how you have something that you think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they can relate to, or you can relate to them to
So
it.
I will say this: I agree with you completely. My only boundary with that is don't do it on a first date.
Oh.
Because I have done it, and it has been done to me. It was during my 20s, right? I went out with this really good looking guy on a date, and I just charged in there, trauma first, about everything that had happened to me, how terrible my life is, how horribly traumatized I am by everything. And I think the poor guy just wanted to have like a martini with me. I mean, it was hilarious. And so naturally, I didn't hear from him again. But I've been very careful not to do that now. And also, I feel like I've processed a lot of shit since then. So, but I did go on a date not too long ago, and we went out. And I mean, I was like his therapist for a good hour and 45 minutes, right? And I've never needed a margarita more in my life, where I was just like, he was just saying, because I think he look, I think it's really important for men to talk about their mental health. I think, and I would never minimize someone's a guy's experience, because I don't think as a culture that we encourage it enough. But it was too much for a first date, Levi. Like I really couldn't help him with his mummy issues at that point. So it was I was trying to lighten things up a little bit, and I was like, so what's your favorite food? And it was like
Oh my
it was like I
gosh.
insulted his mother. He couldn't believe that I was moving on from his problems. But oversharing is a huge problem that I have, and I'm learning. I'm getting better at it. But I think it's building trust with people is really important, right? And I think that's what I'm kind of working on now. That I'm really open and honest about how I feel, but you've got to do it with the right people.
I think so, and I always, or like I always, I sometimes think about, when we go through, like, the say like open mic gigs, and people, because I think people some people think that comedy is therapy. I think comedy is comedy and therapy is therapy, and then a first date is a first date, and then a wholesome conversation, it's a wholesome conversation that you get to have. So I do, again, I agree with you to the extent of, it's because, again, I'm such an, I'd like to think, as a person with a personality disorder, in the first place, I'm pretty much of an advocate for anyone who lives with, has to live with themselves, really.
Gosh,
And
it's
how
horrible, isn't
how
it? It's a horrible
yeah, and
disease.
how tough it is. But like you said, yeah, you have to kind of, see that there are things out there to do, and there are options, and there is a lot. Like, again, therapy is a huge one, and I think, yeah, the trauma dumping, it's a common thing
I
in
think
many
you're right.
ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's two things that came to mind as you were talking. I think the first thing is as a rule that it's it was a very hard lesson to learn, actually, but um never never take anything on stage that you haven't processed first. Right? I remember when I first started, I would just go up there and start venting, no punchlines, just venting. And then and then now, like, sometimes I'll run jokes past my therapist, and I'm like, I'll say the joke really proud of it, right? And she's like, should we unpack that a little bit? Right. Let's rewind a little bit, and so it's really funny. Like, I think like comedy is a great platform to deal with, to therapize yourself, right? But I think sometimes there is a disconnect between being funny and just being like, here's because, well, one of the things that a good mentor of mine said to me at the beginning, he said, Geet, the stage is not a platform for your political manifesto. And I'm like, but it should be. Like, why not? And I was getting quite militant about it, and then I realized, I was like, no, you've actually got to entertain the audience. And I was like, oh my god, damn it. Anyway, so I went from TED Talk to comedy, and that was a very acute
I
learning
think
curve.
I think there is a list of comedians that you should reach out to and let them know as well about how, political manifesto has to
We're
be.
not naming and shaming today, Levi.
No, 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 of course not. It's not,
No,
again, it's
look, I
not
know
even.
you and I we know.
No,
We
but I
know.
was even gonna say, just like, way above our level. I feel like sometimes when I put on like a comedy special, I'm like, what is this? I kind of, you came here for comedy, not for. Although, again, lessons are important, but I feel like there is a time and a place for everything. But
Correct.
anyway, so coming back to you, and dealing with everything, and then basically you had the comedy on your bucket list, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna try this. And then, obviously, like, you were talking about how at the beginning, or at some points, you were just, venting on stage, but then obviously now you're a very good comedian.
Oh,
You're doing really well.
thank you.
And yeah, really enjoy your material. So I guess would you say you can, also something very interesting that you're saying, because now I every time I see you, you actually come across as someone who's almost like shows like no nerves, or like almost like no in the respect of like, you don't seem like a emotive comedian,
Yeah, you
you
know,
know.
it,
So was that something that you've learned through?
it's really interesting, like, because I don't think you and I have gigged together recently. I'm actually not like that anymore. So the way that I was,
Oh.
yeah. So I went initially. I started being pretty crap, like most people, and then, but I was like bouncing around the stage, like I was just making stupid jokes about penises. I mean, it was just silly, right? And then I kind of had a kind of come to Jesus moment where uh
Jesus.
well, you know what I mean? Like I was just like, right,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
isn't work. This ain't working, right? So I just kind of went 180 and became this like completely expressionless, cold-hearted person. But it's not. That's not who I am. Even though like I was being booked for my dark comedy, I was being booked sandwiched in between people who were happy and joyful and bubbly, and I by the end of last year, I was still I was gigging well, and things were going well, but I wasn't enjoying myself. I wasn't having fun because honestly, Levi, there's only so many jokes about incest you can do before you want to blow your brains out, right? And also and so now I've taken a completely different approach, whereas I'm much more interactive. I'm just happier and I have fun. I'm still doing my dark jokes, but I'm not looking so dead inside on stage. So it's been a journey. I really like this is the other thing now. I'm not gigging as frequently, but the gigs, I'm having so much fun. And I think that's one of the things. I think when we get into comedy, or when anyone gets into comedy, I think it's really easy to get sucked into you get into that compare and despair cycle of, oh my gosh, I need to be doing better here, and it gets really, really you kind of live in this kind of quite this kind of pressure cooker, and some people thrive in that environment. But I started comedy because I was like, I needed a creative outlet, A, but B, it was like, who doesn't like laughing? And if I'm going to gigs and not perform, I'm not smiling on stage, forget laughing, not even smiling on stage. I'm like, it's not a good sign when when you've done a really good performance, nailed a gig, but you're going home miserable. That's not a good sign.
fair.
And that's what was happening. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go and have fun and do the same jokes. And it's I have so much fun now, and my love for comedy has returned. So I'd like, it's not a word of advice because, quite frankly, you're not listening to a podcast with me for advice. But but what I would say to any kind of up and coming, not even up and coming, but new comedians, is that make sure you don't lose. Forget passion, but make sure you have fun, right? Make sure you're because I think a lot of people, you know, you can use comedy as a tool to find yourself, and which is again quite a wanky thing to say, but I was transforming into someone that I didn't want to be, and now I feel like I've reverted back to being a little bit more authentic on stage, and a little bit more like life's not all that bad. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really interesting because whenever I've shown people my sets, they've said the same thing. They've said, oh, you look really confident and like you don't give a shit on stage, and that's a nice thing to hear. But I'm like, I can still look confident and not look like I'm about to murder someone, right? It's like there's just a compromise and a happy medium that it took me a while to find.
True.
So yeah.
That's very true. But then, now, what's it like for you to, I guess, because you were talking about how, your days as a standard are like such like they're random, because of the way you'd feel because of your diagnosis, or because your condition. And then what's it like on, I guess, a gigging day? or like how do you
Yeah.
like are you able to perhaps, or have you not like had the experience yet, but if you did, were you able like how do you kind of, do you take it with you on stage, when you have to like almost, put like a mask on then to like not show, I guess, that what you're going through, or do you actually talk about it, or like do you actually take it with you on stage and roll with it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I've not been asked it before. I think, like I've done loads of interviews. Oh, God, this new question. No, it is a good question because I think growing up, I learned very well to compartmentalize stuff, right? And now, I mean, most people know now. I, my illness is quite serious, but I have to laugh about it. I have to, because otherwise I'll get depressed and I'll sit in a corner and rock back and forth in the dark. And I don't want to do that, so I have to laugh about it. And so like, I mean, most comedians that I've gigged with know that, like, I usually need help walking back to the station, or I always need to sit down, and it's and people are only too willing to help, Levi. No one's been like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, the level of kindness I've been lucky to experience, because the thing is, this is not a case of me, like, you know it's not a case of me having a cough, right? It's like my mobility is compromised, and I don't ever want to be a drama queen. But I'll tell you something that happened a couple of days ago. And I went to go and see the guy running the Croydon Comedy Festival, and we had a really good chat. And I was on my way home, and I don't know if it was the weather, I was too hot, right? But I had the worst flare up I've had. What my head had kind of rolled back, and I couldn't lift it up again, and everything was like, I was like cramped up, like you can't see, but I was really crampy everywhere, and and the thing is, I looked like a crackhead, right? But it's Croydon, so people were just like walking past, like she's probably on drugs or something.
Oh
So
god.
I like hobbled to this like family, because here's the other thing. I always try to go to women for help, simply because it's probably just safer. So I went to this. There was a family, and I went to the mother, and I said, "I'm really sorry. I've got multiple sclerosis. Can I?" And it was like a 3-minute walk back to my flat, and she held my hand and walked with me, and made sure I got back okay. And the reception guys in my building were just amazing. So it's like, when I ask for help, I'm going to be fine. But it took me a really, really long time to, like, I always felt like I was being dramatic and entitled, and I'm not answered your question, because you said, do I take it on stage? No, I never do, really, because I don't feel sorry for myself. Like, I think I'm like, yeah, I mean, I make jokes about it, and it's there's I can't remember who said, there was a comedian who made this joke, and I always remember it. She's like, oh, when she has sexy time with someone, she's like, oh, they always say, like, I'll leave you so you can't walk. She's like, I want to have sexy time where I can walk. Like, and I was like, hell yeah, I love that. So yeah, it's I don't I think another thing to kind of factor in, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of ranting a little bit, but there's a huge psychological component that comes with chronic illness, right? I mean, you've got the physical symptoms, but there's you can't live normal. You're not living normally, right? And so naturally, I've had to deal with all the sadness and the anxiety and the depression around it, because there's quite a lot, and I was so anti medication for a while. I was like, I'm not taking medication. I had a really bad experience with it, actually, in my 20s, because I was misdiagnosed, and I was on like a cocktail of like lithium and antipsychotics and I was like, I don't think this is helping. Anyway, I took myself off them, which is not advisable. But I kind of, my therapist was like, Geet, let's do a 2 or 3 week trial run. She said, if you hate them, get off them. Probably one of the best decisions I've made in a while, to stay on them. They've really, really helped me, and it's made me, I feel like a different person. Like, it's just, it makes me and maybe it's some people argue that it's medication is like just putting a bandage over the wound, and maybe that's true. But I'm like, for someone who I live alone, and sometimes I just need to look on the bright side of life, right? And it helps me do that. So it's worked for me, and yeah. But so I don't talk about the mental stuff on stage, um, because I'm like, it's nice to somehow, I don't know if it's escapism. It's nice to somehow just not think about it for a while. And those 15-20 minutes that I might be, it's just nice to talk about. It's nice to feel normal just for a split moment, you know?
Yeah, I get it. And before because I thought about two things, and one of them was I think when people are saying that the reference about the like medication, where it's, oh, it's just like covering with a bandage. I look, I understand I understand some of the again, like I understand an individual's view or why they have certain views on certain things, but ultimately why do you care? It's my choice, because I thought about it, like for example, now I think I've got, besides of the I'm taking something for the migraines.
Mm.
I'm taking, then I have like something for like mood stabilization, like SSRs or whatever they are
Yeah, yeah.
called. And then now I have to do like this like stomach treatment, and everyone was like, oh, but yeah, I think I heard this very recently where it's like, oh, I would never do this, and like I would never take things, and I was like, I couldn't really care, to be honest, about like what would you or wouldn't do. I think if it works, it works, because even what, it's my want to put a plaster over. It's not your want,
I
you know.
totally agree. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's such an individual thing, and like after, because I've been in therapy since I came out the bloody womb. Like I've been in therapy for most of my life, for good reason. And after years and years and years and years of therapy, and I'm still waking up because I've got. I'm not trying to say I'm trying to justify my misery or anything like that, but I think a lot of people in my situation would struggle too, with my history and stuff. So it's it has, and I'm obviously trying to survive on my own and maintain independence and blah blah blah. But it's I think some people, there's no right or wrong way to feeling better. And I think if therapy works for you, great. Some people, if group therapy works for you, great. Some people just need to have a chat with their mate and have a bitch session. Good for you. I mean, everyone has their own way. So I've had to look at myself and stop judging others. And like, oh, I can't believe that person's taking medication. And I used to do that for a long time, Levi. I was like, what? And also, if you're taking medication and not doing therapy, and I was judgy McGee, right? I was like the worst human being. And now I think, again, once you walk in someone's shoes, you might change your approach. But now I'm a bit like, you know what, mate? Whatever's getting you through the day, I vouch for it.
Which, yeah.
No hate or shame in doing what you need to do.
No, yeah, of course, exactly. I always thought of, because I think we sometimes come across people who are very like, oh, I wouldn't do this, and I'm like, I don't think the question wasn't about what you would or wouldn't do. I was talking about my situation. um but then I
Yeah,
was gonna say, with the in regards to like to doing like comedy, what when I'm just curious from a perspective of like, we gig around like different venues, and you again, when you apply, or like when you get offered like gigs, what's it like to address, like what's it like for you to be like, hey, are these things, like accessibility wise, accessibility needs wise, are those things in
yeah.
place? Have you felt any, I don't know, have you ever felt, I guess, either bad, or have you ever felt like you didn't know how to get your like points across, just to make sure that everything gets covered?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't require accessibility provisions, so I don't, I'm fine going upstairs and downstairs. I do need somewhere to sit once I arrive. Just because it's a case of either me sitting down before my set or me doing my set on the floor with my legs crossed, right? It's like, which no one really needs to see. So it's learning, first of all, learning how to take care of myself before, during, and after commitments is, it's trial and error, because you don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I don't do any last minute gigs ever. So unless it's like the next day, but if it's like, I wouldn't do one that same day, unless it was like down the road from me or something. Just because I've already, once when I wake up in the morning, I kind of plan the day and think, and that will kind of determine how I manage my energy that day. Because when you have something like multiple sclerosis, it takes me 10 times the amount of energy to do what a normal, like it takes me so much energy to have a shower, right? It takes me a lot of energy to do my laundry, to empty the dishwasher, like all these basic things. I'm exhausted after like taking the dishes out. It's exhausting for me. So I need to always, so I try to plan ahead. That's really important for me. It was really, really difficult during the tube strikes, the train strikes, because, or if someone says to me, oh, it's only like a 10-15 minute walk from the station, that is probably nothing to most people. But I like, depending on how I feel that day, I might need to take the bus, right? And if there's no bus available, then I probably won't be able to get to the gig unless I Uber. So it's like all these small, I mean, they're not small to me, but it takes a huge amount of mental preparation and planning just to make sure I get there in one piece. And also, it's a safety thing as well, right? Like after I fell on the road, I need to make sure that there is support around me. Like if I have to walk, if it's a 20-minute walk to the station and it's 11 p.m., I tend not to do that, and I'd rather just take an Uber home. And it's expensive, but it's a case of me. It's life and death to me, and I know that sounds really dramatic, but I do see the things that I do. I don't do out of luxury. I do them out of like necessity and making sure that I get home alive. And so it's so yeah, I mean gigs, I don't care, I don't really mind about accessibility. If I've got longer spots, for example, I did a 20-minute spot in Southampton recently, which was so much fun. But I'll just ping the promoter and say, hey, just let you know, could you just leave a stool on the side or something, just in case, right? There have been times, Levi, it's really funny. There have been times where I've had to like lean on the mic stand, right, just to maintain stability. And I'm not doing it because a lot of people hold the mic stand because they think it looks really cool, right? I'm not doing it to look cool. I'm doing it to stay upright. Like, so it's yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but I feel very lucky and blessed that I've got such a I feel like the people who I know in comedy are so lovely, and not everyone's going to be like that. Not everyone's going to be understanding. But I've kind of I've got some good eggs around me. Put it that way,
That sounds lovely, and
including yourself, Mr. Lupu.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, the thing is, because this is what we're gonna talk about next, about like the not like your gig, and like how you got to run your own things. And I was gonna say that was, and I think I did tell you on the night, that was probably like one of the funnest nights I've done in a
Oh, thanks,
long
man.
time. No, it's true. It's just because I really enjoyed it. Was really cool. But yeah, how did you? What made you? I guess want to deal, because for once I hate I no I don't hate, because that's a bit strong, but I find the admin behind running stuff very challenging and
Oh,
very
mate. Firstly, can I just say you smashed that gig. So you can
thank you.
say the room was not. No, you actually did a really fantastic set. I was very, very impressed. yeah. I mean, it's this. There was a period of time after Christmas I thought I don't want to carry on this gig because it's so exhausting. Do you know what has made all the difference in the world? Because I used to pay my MC, right, and I occasionally, if it was like a kind of a well kind of seasoned headliner, then I would, I'd contribute to their travel or whatever it is. But so I used to make it a ticketed event, and I've now made it free entry, and it's just made such a difference, right? Because I'm not constantly checking sales. I'm not constantly worrying, will the venue want to continue, blah blah blah. So that headache I've removed, right? There's another headache of people dropping out. I've been really lucky, actually. Very few people have ever dropped out of my gig. I'll say this now, and everyone's going to drop out for my next sod law, isn't it? But yeah, no, I've been quite lucky in that regard. And it's really important for me to take care of my acts. So it's like everyone gets free drinks on my night, and it's unpaid, but like I know who's coming. I curate my lineup, so it's like a case of me proactively reaching out to people I want on the lineup and saying who will work really well with this. Right, and my next gig, I've got way too many Indian people. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm like, guys, we're gonna have to diversify the jokes a little bit. We can't all talk about curry all night. But no, that's horribly racist against my own people. God, move on, Geet. No, so I've been. It's my baby, right? And I think anyone who runs a gig, and if you like, I don't, like, it's not like I don't make anything from it. I actually, put money towards posters and marketing, and I do it because I don't tell the venue this, my God, but I do it for the pure love of it, right? It's a passion project, and I think some people start gigs and don't really care about marketing or who shows up, and it's just they get paid a small sum by the venue to put on something, and whereas like I'm like, it has to be the best night ever, and probably it's where my perfectionism is actually productive rather than destructive. So it's I mean, it's a monthly gig. It's called Laugh House Comedy Club in Croydon, and really proud of it. It's we have returning audience every month, which is great. Actually, it was really funny. And this goes out to Stephen Catling. Stephen, I love you very much. But I had a message from an audience member who comes back quite regularly, but they work with the NHS, right? And so they were like, I want to invite my colleagues, but can I? Because Stephen he likes to remove layers of clothing, and she sent me a text message saying, "Can I just ensure there's not going to be any nudity at the next?" And I was going to tell Stephen about it, but God bless him. But Stephen smashed it, and he rocked the night so much. But I was like, no, I'm sure everyone's going to keep their clothes on, but I have to maybe send a message to the group and just say, hey guys, if you're planning to remove any clothing, can you not? I don't think anyone is. But now I know there's going to be some people who might listen to this thinking, you know what, let's terrorize.
Let's check out the night.
I will not be removing any clothing. I will be.
I just, you know what? Because I'm a huge fan of Steven as well. I think it's
I thought you were
was a
going to
good
say I'm
set.
a huge fan of nudity for a second. We said Levi.
No, it's Steven first, and nudity
Wicked.
maybe like third or fourth favorite thing, but after no, but yeah, I was gonna say he was brilliant, and I found it hilarious, and I think. This is just like such a side note, but I think there we did a gig together, and then the promoter had to do a Stephen Catling rule where people can't pour. Basically, it was like nobody can pour anything over themselves.
Well, bless Mr. Catling is very responsible. So he came fully armed. He came fully armed with wet wipes to clear up any mess. So he's very responsible. But Look, I think originality is something that's hard to come by, I think, sometimes in comedy. And you can't fault him. You can't fault him for not being original.
No, for sure. Yeah, exactly. And look, the thing is, he is also wildly funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
And such a
I
nice person.
yeah, he's a lovely person, and even like that's the thing because he's not just as like in from a comedy perspective. Just watching him on stage, I think because you don't know what he's gonna do, and also he does funny stuff as well, like very funny stuff. And I think even some of the one-liners or like some of the quicker jokes that he gets out are also brilliant. And you kind of see that he's the sort of person that cares for the craft,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Like I'm
like
not I'm not a big fan of like absurdist comedy is not really my bag, right? I like I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm like, oh, like if something's well crafted or political, I'm just a massive dork. But um, you can't not love him. He's so lovable and he's such a crowd pleaser. But yeah, I mean, you're right. But one thing I've learned actually, Stephen taught me a very valuable lesson. Gosh, all this podcast is about him now. He taught me a very valuable lesson because I saw him at the station and he was buying tickets to go to a gig somewhere, and I learned that you should never surprise someone with autism, because I scared the living daylights out of him because I walked up to him from behind and I tapped him and he was like like freaking out, and I'm like, okay, never do that again. And I could not have been more apologetic, but lesson learned, never do that. Because they I think we forget sometimes about how
yeah.
their sensory reactions, and I think I was trying to be endearing and playful, but I think I actually almost gave him a heart attack. So Stephen, I apologize if you're listening.
Well, hopefully, as he was on. He was actually one of the very first people on. It was like I think
I know. I have
second
listened
or
to your podcast, Levi.
oh, thank you. Well, before we wrap it up, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, where are you most active? Where do people find you again? We talked about the Laugh House Comedy Club once a month in Croydon, but yeah, let's just do that again. And
Yeah, so
also, yeah,
it's
where do people find out about you?
yeah, man. So I'm the worst social media person in the world. I don't post anything. I don't have an Instagram account. But if you type in Geet Chawla comedy into Facebook, you will find all my upcoming gigs. I feel embarrassed almost saying any of this, but my night actually, if you want to get involved, is at Laugh House London on Instagram. It's not my personal account. You'll find zero clips of me on. Maybe you'll find one clip of me online. I'm basically, if you need me, just pigeon mail me or something. I don't know.
I was gonna say
I'm
yellow
not very
pages.
accessible, sadly. Um, or just get contact an ex boyfriend of mine and ask for my details. I don't know. Yes, no, yeah, but you Geek Traveler Comedy on Facebook. And I think where's my next gig? I think my next gig. Oh, I'm headlining a gig on the 28th in Bruce Grove. Andy James's gig. So if anyone wants to come to that, feel free, because um I need to give a solid performance, so I need the pressure.
Well, thank you for your time.
No,
This
thanks
was
for having
amazing.
me. That was really fun, Levi. I really appreciate it. And how is my question to you? How's the kitchen coming on?
It's not done
Not done yet. Cool. Well,
yet. Hopefully,
well,
yeah. I mean, look, I'm gonna stop saying whenever it's done, it's done.
yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, good
it
luck with it.
feels.
And
Thank you.
I'll yeah. And I don't know when you and I will gig next, but I'm sure I'll see you around.
Yeah, no, I'll see you around. I think over summer it's a bit, and also because I'm getting through the hospital stuff with the stomach thing. I'm hopeful to like find out after the test tomorrow, by the end of the week, whatever is going on, and then I have actively not took as many shows over summer just because I have learned from the previous 2 years that almost everything got canceled that was a part of. So unless it's a ticketed event or unless it's like again a semi-pro uh, minimum night, I
Yeah.
won't do it. Just
No.
again throughout the summer because yeah, it's just so unfair, I think.
Yeah, and you know what,
For
Levi, just put you, man, just put your health first. I really hope the tests go well. And if honestly, mate, if you need anything, I'm here.
likewise, and I appreciate it. That's really kind. But I'm looking forward to us gigging together. I'm sure it's gonna happen soon. And yeah, take care.
All right, stay blessed. I'll see you later.
Hey, was it good? Was it what you hoped for? Was it better? Hmm? I hope it was better. I hope it was at least what you hoped for. Um, Once again, yeah, I had a lot of fun recording it. I hope Geet had a lot of fun as well. And make sure you check out her work. And if you are London based, or if you're like South London based, or for some reason you choose to travel in your next summer holiday to South London, then make sure you check out the night that Git is running, because it's a good night and I really enjoyed it. And it yeah, I had a great time. I think the audience was lovely and the acts were great, and it was just a good room to do comedy in. And what else? What else? I think that's it. I think I'm going to let you all enjoy the rest of your lives until Monday, or let me think, next week, Monday or Tuesday. We'll figure it out anyway. But yeah, thanks for listening. Take care. Bye bye.